Hello everyone, my name is Rauda Bena, and today I'll be presenting a risk management analysis for Twins Residents, which is actually a business that operates in the hospitality sector, especially in the West Africa. The purpose of the presentation is to identify the risks that affect this particular business. Before we dive into the details, here's a quick roadmap of what this presentation will cover. We'll start with a brief overview of the country, followed by its economic and demographic profile. We'll then touch on the political background and how it connects to the twins' residents. After that, I will introduce the resident itself and walk you through the register and the matrix developed. We'll then look at the mitigation strategies proposed, followed by its post mitigation dashboard to show the impact of those actions. We'll finally wrap up with a conclusion and some suggested next steps. As the word narrows in, we arrive in Niger, West Africa's largest country situated in the Sahel region. It shares borders with Algeria, Libya, Chad, Nigeria, Benin, Burkina Faso, and Mali. Let's now take a closer look at Niger. It's actually located in West Africa and is a landlocked country covering around 1.25 million square square kilometers, making it the largest country in the region. It is mostly 80% of desert, forming part of the Sahara, with a climate characterized by long dry seasons, short rainy periods, and temperatures ranging from 22 to 50 degrees Celsius sometimes. It also has a very long dry seasons with short rainy periods that sometimes last about, let's say, not more than 2 months. Niger is actually culturally diverse, with over 20 ethnic groups, including Hausa, Zarma, Tuareg, Fulani. It also has vibrant traditions in music, crafts, and arts, and is widely known for its hospitality and sense of community. French is actually the official language alongside with over over more than 11 other local languages. Religion and tradition is also influenced in the daily life in Niger, because Islam is deeply embedded in the culture, and is practiced by more than 98% of the population, followed by Christianity, practiced by, let's say, less or about 1%. Then Judaism is very rare, almost non existent, with some traditional beliefs, especially in rural communities. Major festivities like Tabaski are characterized by family gathering, Maulud, which commemorates the Prophet's birthday, is very observed as well. Now, let's take a look at some demographics. First, the population. As of 2023, Niger has around 27.1 million people. What is striking is how fast the population is growing, about 3.8% every year. That means that the population is roughly doubling every 18 years. In fact, Niger has one of the highest, if not the highest, birth rates in the world, averaging 6.9 children per woman, which actually puts pressure on housing, education, and healthcare system. Now, unemployment may seem surprisingly low at just 0.55%, but this number doesn't actually tell the full story because most people work in agriculture or informal jobs that aren't officially recorded. So, while many are working on job securities, uh, and income levels are still very low, urbanization is also very limited. Only about 17% of people live in cities. That means that the majority still live in rural areas where the access to services like electricity, clean water, and healthcare can be very limited. The environment adds more challenges. Niger faces serious issues like the desertification, deforestation, and water scarcity. This problem affect the farming, food supply, and even sometimes where people can live safely. On the economic side, inflation is relatively stable at just 3.7% per year. That's a good sign, as it means that prices aren't just rising too quickly, but it doesn't mean that life is still affordable for everyone. When it comes to the life expectancy, it's around 62.4 years. That's lower than the global average, and which actually may also reflect on ongoing struggles with healthcare, nutrition, and living condition overall. Agriculture is the backbone of the economy. It contributes about 40% of the country's GDP and employs around 80% of the population. Most of this is actually subsistence farming. Common crops include millet, sorghum, onions, and cowpeas. Livestock is also playing an important role in the country's overall economy, with cattle, goats, sheep, camels that are being raised all over the country. Beyond farming, the Niger is also rich in natural resources. It's the fifth largest uranium producer in the world, and this mineral plays a major role in the national economy. Like in 2023, the country has exported over 100 1,500 tons of uranium worth about $204 million. All of it was just going to France. And the uranium alone is making up to 20% of the country's total exports. Gold is another valuable resource. In 2022, Niger exported about 2.4 tons of gold, mostly from small scale artisanal mining, which brought about $110 million, with nearly 90% of it was going to UAE and 10% to South Africa. Oil is another growing sector. By 2025, the country is expected to produce 83,000 barrels of oil per day. In 2023, refined petroleum exports reached about $116 million and made up nearly 45 of the country's tax revenue. As we look at this timeline, we see that Niger's political history since its independence in 1960 has been marked by frequent changes in leaderships, often through coups and military interventions. Hamani Jory was the first president serving as a civilian leader for 14 years until the military coup in 1974 led by Seni Kunci, who ruled for 13 years under military rule, followed by Ali Seibu, who continued as a military leader for 6 years. In 1993, Mohammed Usman then became the first democratically elected president, but his civilian government lasted only for 3 years before another military coup brought Barry Nassara to the power in 1996. Mainasara then ruled. Uh, it was actually short lived, ending with a coup in 1999 by Dauda Malawanke, who led a brief transitional military government. After this period, Niger saw a decade of civilian leadership under Mahamadou Tanja from 1999 to 2010, before yet another military transition led by Salou Jibo. This was followed by 10 years of relative stability under President Mahamadou Issoufou, and then the election of Mohamed Bazoum in 2021. It was recently in July 2023 that the General Abdurrahman Chani took the power through a military coup, removing the elected president Mohamed Bazoum shortly after taking control. He then openly accused France of exploiting its uranium and then cut off political relationship. Under Chinese leadership, Niger also withdrew from the ECOWAS, which is the economic community of West African states. It's a sort of European Union for West African countries. And then that was an organization that was established in 1975, which regulates economy, political cooperation among West African countries. Niger had been active member since its creation under the first president Hamani Djori. Leaving ECOWAS brought significant repercussions, including harsh economic sanctions, border closures, and diplomatic isolation that is actually significantly impacting the whole country's economy. In response to that, Niger has strengthened alliances with Mali and Burkina Faso that are also under military rule and experiencing similar tensions. So together, these three countries form a alliance of the Sahel state, positioning themselves strategically closer to Russia and China. Security is one of the most serious challenges faced by Niger today. According to the Global Peace Index, Niger ranks out of 160 countries 41st, placing it among the least peaceful nations in the world. The country has also a terrorism index of 7.74 out of 10, which reflects a high level of threat. Like in 2023 alone, there were almost 300 terrorist attacks, and in 2024, these attacks led to over 900 deaths. There are several terrorist armed groups which are very active in the region, including Jenim, the ISWAP, and Boko Haram, which is the most common known. These groups operate mainly in the western and the southeastern part of the country. This map shows the security status by region. Areas like Tillaberi, Awa are marked in red, indicating high risk. In 2025, these two regions alone saw about 237 soldiers, and Difa is in the southeast is another hotspot, with frequent attacks by ISWAP and specifically Boko Haram. Also, the consequences of this instability are severe. Like trade has dropped by 25%, affecting both import and exports. Tourism has declined up to 40%, and foreign investment, especially in mining and energy, has also fallen by 20%. Building on a previous slide, here's we look more closely at how terrorism and regional instability directly affect the environment in which Twins is operating. The first major issue is the growing presence of terrorism within Niger. Attacks on both civilians and military forces have created a climate of fear. This doesn't just affect local communities, it also discourages business activities. Like investors might hesitate to commit to projects, and clients or even visitors might avoid traveling to the country altogether. The second issue is regional instability. Like Niger is actually sharing borders with Mali and Burkina Faso, which are also facing serious security challenges. So the conflict between these neighboring countries often spill over into Niger, making actually the situation more complicated. One of the direct consequences is the movement of refugees across borders. As people flee violence, they seek safety in Niger, which puts extra pressure on local services like housing and resources. This can increase tension and make it harder to even maintain the stability in a already vulnerable area. Now, let's introduce Twins Residence. Twins Residence is operating in the hospitality sector. It offers fully furnished apartments designed to meet the needs of diverse clientele. The primary customer segments include expatriate, diplomatic staff, international NGOs, some leisure tourists, and most likely military personnel. It's also part of a group Tubal, which is a family run business with presence across hospitality, real estate, and banking. Currently, Twins Residence is facing a significant operational challenge because the occupancy rates have dropped dramatically to about 44% from a previous high score of 85, which actually shows a direct link to the recent political instability. The drop doesn't just reflect structural issues in the environment, but also the regional instability, security concern, and also the shift in the international priorities, which contributed to reduce the travel and as well as the relocation in Niger. As a result, international military personnel, diplomatic staff, and the other expatriates who are the main customer segment are leaving the country. This is a simplified organizational structure of Twins Residence. At the top is the president, who actually provides strategic oversight and governance of the whole group. Directly beneath the president is the CEO, who is responsible for the overall leadership and the long term vision of the organization. While the CEO leads the executive team, both the COO and the CFO, the chief executive officer, and the chief financial officer also maintain a direct reporting line to the president. Also, under the COO is the COO that manages the day to day operations while ensuring the service delivery and the guest experience meet the company's standards. So, reporting to the CEO are two key roles: the facility and the hospitality manager. The one responsible and the one who oversees the condition and the performance of the apartments and the guest services. And then there is the front office supervisor. And the front office supervisor who oversees the daily operations of the desk, ensuring smooth and efficiency services, as well as to manage the staff and maintaining guest satisfaction. On the financial side, the CFO is responsible for financial planning, compliance, and risk management. Reporting to the CFO are the internal audit function, which ensures transparency and adherence to internal controls, and also the accounting manager who handles budgeting, planning, reporting, and daily financial operations. To begin the risk analysis, we start with the business structure and governance. In this presentation, we'll explore six major risk categories because of the time constraint. That was selected from a larger risk register of 183 risks identified. The first category is the business and the structure governance. This is because Twins Residence operates under a family run governance model. While this structure can offer agility and closer knit leadership, it also introduces vulnerabilities among which we can find the governance risk. Because in a family run business, the decision making is often centralized among a very small group of individuals. That can lead to a potential conflict of interest. Also, the leadership risk closely tied to the governance is the issue of leadership continuity. In organizations where leadership is concentrated in a few key individuals, any sudden departure or internal disagreement can disrupt operations. Also, the absence of a clear succession plan that will increase the vulnerability. Also, we have regulatory changes like operating in a region with evolving political and legal framework that will expose the business to frequent regulatory shifts. So the change in tax policy or labor laws or foreign investments can have like immediate impact on the daily operations as well as the financial part. So finally, also there is the risk of non-compliance with local and international legal standards. This includes related to contracts, employment law, safety regulations, or data protection in an unstable regulatory environment. Even like minor oversights can lead to fines, reputational damage, or even legal disputes. The second major risk category is country and geopolitical risk. Niger, like many other countries in the region, is exposed to a large range of geopolitical pressures that directly affect the business continuity and as well as the operational safety. So, five keys have been identified, like the terrorism spillover, the threat of terrorism in the neighboring regions that pose a direct risk to the stability within Niger. Also, the spillover effects, such as cross border attacks or the spread of extremist network, that can lead to travel restrictions or a decline in the international presence, specifically for a business that serves expatriates, NGOs, diplomatic staff. This is a serious operational threat. Also, the border closures. Like in response to the political unrest, the government may impose sudden border closures, like it already happened several times this year. The that can disrupt the movement of goods, of staff, of clients, most likely. And then we have the regulatory uncertainty, which refers to the frequent change in national policy, especially those related to foreign investment that can create an unpredictable business environment. And also, without a clear and stable regulations, long-term plannings become more difficult for the business. To the list is the political instability, coups, contested elections, or even civil unrest can destabilize the entire operating environment. So, changes in diplomatic alliances can also alter the flow of international personnel. For example, if a major donor country reduces its presence or funding in Niger, like France did already, the diplomatic region may scale back operations, directly affecting Twins residents' core clients. And then within this presentation, talking about the international sanctions, if Niger becomes subject to international sanctions, the impact on the financial transactions and the global partnership could be severe, which may definitely deter foreign clients from traveling to the country. Next, we have the operational and HR risk. This focuses on the risk directly affecting daily operations and the staff performance. It includes infrastructure reliability, which is essential services like power, water, and internet network, which are prone to disruptions, directly impacting the guest comfort. And then we have the maintenance backlogs. Those are delays in repairs that can cause service issues, and as well as harming reputation sometimes. And then we have the workforce shortages, like the limited availability of qualified staff uh, that will definitely strain operations and service quality. Next, we have the skill gaps. Inadequate training can lead to errors and inconsistent experiences. On the other side, you have the financial risk, because financial stability is also among one of the most critical factors, especially given the Niger's volatile environment. Major financial risks include market risk, revenue fluctuation from geopolitical instability, and the changes in clientele presence that affect the occupancy and as well as income. Next, we have the liquidity risk. The cash flow shortages from declining occupancy and delayed payment is threatening operational continuity. The fraud risk also, it's a weak control. The weak control um, actually increase the change of internal or a third party fraud, risking the finances and the reputation of the whole business. Then we have the credit default risk, the non-payment or late payment by clients that impact the financial health of the company. Finally, we'll be talking about the currency and the translation risk, which are the exchange rate volatility that potentially reduce profit margin when dealing with multiple currencies. Because, as you remember, I already mentioned that our clientele are most likely from different regions, so we'll be dealing with that as well. The fourth category in the risk analysis combines technology and environmental risk, two areas that both represent and emerge, increasing critical challenges for Twins residents. Taking on the technology and environment risk, we have we'll be talking about five key risks that stand out, especially in relevant for twins. Among them, we have the cybersecurity threat. As digital tools increase, so does the risk of cyber attacks, the unauthorized access to system or guest data that can cause financial losses, reputational damage, and also the legal issues. Even short outages disrupt services and trust. The data protection. Compliance with global data privacy law is actually essential, because mishandling sensitive information, whether by error or system flaws, can result in penalties and the loss of client confidence. Also, poorly integrated AI or over reliance on automated decisions might cause services inconsistencies, biased outcomes, or even the guest dissatisfaction. On the environmental side, we have the floods, storms, and extreme weather that can disrupt operation um, by damaging infrastructure or threatening the safety of both the staff and the customers. The climate impact, that is like long-term trends like rising temperatures or water scarcity that affect the energy use, the maintenance, and the appeal of the location. On the last point, we'll be talking about the strategic and reputational risk, like competitor risk, failing to keep up with competitors' innovations in pricing, services, and the experience risk. While this can actually cause a loss in market share and profit. So next, we have innovation risk. The hospitality sector demands constant innovation, so resistance or very poor management of new technologies and services can harm the guest dissatisfaction and the business growth. We also have the market expansion risk, expanding into new locations or markets involves risk related to cultural fit, market knowledge, or even the execution of the plan. So, lastly, we have the business reputation risk, public perception, how the public is perceiving your, or not even the public, even your customers perceive your business is also very important, and very fragile as well. So, actions viewed as unethical or irresponsible can severely damage reputation. So, how we can mitigate those risks? The next slide presents a snapshot of our current risk register, which categorizes and evaluates key risks across different domains of the business. So each risk is actually assessed based on its likelihood, its impact, and the resulting risk level, and is assigned to a specific risk owner for accountability. This is just a sample from the risk register where I have chosen one of different risk type for the purpose of the presentation. So the table is organized into risk ID, risk type, risk description, the impact, the consequence if it ever happens, the pre-mitigation risk level, um, in which we have the likelihood, the impact, and then the risk level, and then the risk owner, the one responsible for monitoring the risk. For example, if we take a look at the third row, limited access to liquidity with a risk ID of R404 categorized under financial risk that holds the extreme risk level with a score of 16 and is actually managed by the CFO. For this particular risk, I assigned a likelihood of 4 because of the recent ECOWAS sanctions imposed on Niger, which are having significant restricted access to external funding sources and the potential transition from the CFA to a new IS regional currency. Um, all of that introduces additional uncertainties. The impact was also rated at 4 as liquidity shortages which severely affect Twins residents' ability to cover its short-term operational costs, like to pay suppliers promptly and then meet the financial obligations, ultimately disrupting the overall business continuity. We can also take an example of the recurrent power outage with a risk ID of R167, categorized under the business interruption. Is also considered as an extreme risk with a total risk score of 16. This high risk rating comes from a likelihood of 4 due to the Niger's unstable electricity grid and the frequent fuel supply disruptions, and also an impact rating of 4 as these outages can severely disrupt daily operations and guest services and discomfort and their satisfaction overall. So, given its importance, the risk is closely monitored by the facility manager. And then we can take a look at the over reliance on AI recommendations, a risk ID of 501, identified under the technological risk. It has been assigned a risk score of 12. The likelihood rating is 3, um, is 4, indicating a moderate probability of occurrence since the increasing in automation and AI adoption could potentially lead to dependency on automated systems. So the impact is rated at 3 that reflect a major operational disruption that could occur if the automated recommendations are actually incorrect or biased. And the risk is under the supervision of the IT director. Another notable example is political instability due to the military coup with a risk ID of RO81, categorized under country risk with a risk level of 12. I rated the likelihood at 4, meaning that it's likely to occur given the Niger's recent political history, particularly the military coup of 2023 and the ongoing tensions. And the impact is assessed at 3, representing a significant disruptions to operations or a decrease in guest occupancy, and also weaken in guest confidence as well. So, given its seriousness, the risk is directly overseen by the board. The risk matrix displayed here offers a clear visualization of the selected risk identified across our operations. This is organized by their likelihood and the severity to guide strategic decision making. So, at the most critical level, the escalating terrorist threat or travel ban is placed as a severe and likely scenario, reflecting recent security escalations that could actually limit the business operation and capacity towards its customers. Similarly, the political instability and the terrorist incidents are considered almost certain with major consequences due to the ongoing regional instability and the frequent terrorist attacks. So, which has actually heightened the security threats directly impacting the daily business continuity. So, risks such as the low market entry barriers and the frequent equipment breakdowns are categorized as major and likely, justified by recent operational disruptions and increased competition affecting the profitability and service quality. Additionally, the potential of a major data breach moderates in likelihood but severe in its consequence, and is also positioned to highlight vulnerabilities due to the increased dependence on digital tools and the past incidents. So, moderately significant risk like booking system failures and poor AI integration appear due to recent issues affecting customer satisfaction and operational efficiency. Lower level risk include routine issues such as minor health and safety incidents, PT theft, and the violation of a building codes are actually identified as manageable through existing control measures and standard practices. Although this is unlikely, extreme scenarios such as an earthquake that damages the infrastructure or kidnapping scenario like kidnapping an expatriate guest that remain important to acknowledge due to their profound potential impact. So this is just a snapshot of risk priorities of some selected risk among the risk register that underscores the rationale rooted in current circumstances and also experiences and clearly informed about the targeted actions. Before we dive into mitigation strategies, it's actually important to understand the structured approach that Twins residents should be using to manage its risk. So the slide outlines the current ongoing risk assessment, which ensures that the risk management is not like a one-time event, but a continuous adaptive process. And from that, any risk assessment should begin systematically by identifying the potential risk, whether strategic, operational, technological, or reputational. This step is actually to ensure that there is a clear picture of what could impact the business. Next is to analyze each identified risk by actually assessing its likelihood and potential impact. which can help to understand which risks are most urgent or severe. Based on the analysis, the next step is to prioritize the risk. This step will allow to focus on available resources on the area that pose the greatest threat towards its objectives. So once prioritized, the step should allow to develop and then implement the strategies in order to reduce the risk. This includes both preventive measures or contingency plans. After the mitigation, there is the monitoring, which represents efforts to continuously monitor in order to ensure that those uh, those risks are very effective. Those risk mitigations are effective actually. So the SEP tracks key indicators and then stay alert to any changes. Next, we'll have the regular reviews, which will help to evaluate the performance of the risk control. Like if something isn't working or should be adjusted. And the next step is to update. As a new risk emerge, it should be updated to the risk register so that the strategies can stay current and very responsive. Finally, the findings should be reported to promote transparency and then align across the whole organization. Continuing our focus on the operational risk management, Twins Residence has identified several risks under this sector that can that can affect the daily operations alongside with the residents' satisfaction. We can see there is the frequent power outages that are very critical challenge because of the nature's unstable national electricity grid due to the political tensions with Nigeria specifically, because Nigeria was previously supplying electricity to the country. So even though Niger is one of the largest uranium producers, and the geopolitical situations made that Nigeria has disrupted electricity supply to its neighbor. So to effectively address this, Twins residents should plan to install a solar photovoltaic system. Those are systems that are capable of generating 48 kilowatts. So the system is actually to convert the sunlight directly into electricity through solar panels that will store the energy into batteries while providing uninterrupted power even during grid failures. So, essential facilities such as elevators, water pumps, security systems, or the Wi Fi services that will be prioritized during those outages. And then it will also reduce the dependence on generators, with even though the business will still maintain at least a 5 day fuel reserve in with partnership with Total Niger, which is actually a fuel station, for a complete reliability. The estimated total cost, inclusive of the maintenance for 5 years, is about $120,000. For the water supply to mitigate shortages, an 80-meter borehole should be drilled, equipped with a solar powered pump that will ensure a continuous independent water availability. Additionally, UV filtration systems should be integrated to guarantee potable water quality, supported by a regular quarterly test. The total investment is approximately $25,000. And then we have the maintenance delays that can severely impact, it's already impacting the operational efficiency. So thus the residents should implement a proactive and preventive maintenance plan, like hiring an on-site technician that will be responsible for timely keep up of plumbing, electrical system, and the air conditioning units. Instead of like just calling when there is a, instead um, of it being creative, we should go for the preventive side. Like the initiative would minimize the downtime and also is budgeted at around 6,000 US dollars per year. So there is also the waste management issues, which is addressed by partnering with reputable local waste collection services. So in that case, recycling bins will be placed on site. While this promotes sustainability among residents and staff, the initial investment is approximately $3,000, with an ongoing service cost around $100 per year per month. Sorry. And then the tenant dissatisfaction will be mitigated through direct engagement initiatives, like well the traditional method, such as like the QR code scans and the email, often result in a very low response rate, and which delays the replies of. So Twins residents will be introducing a QR-based feedback kiosk for immediate and as well as a convenient resident input. This will actually be complemented by monthly roundtable discussions with the general manager while providing a face to face interaction and immediate acknowledgement of residents' concerns that could potentially enhance the overall trust and satisfaction among the clients. So, the proactive and the personal approach of this is budgeting at $2,000 per year. Lastly, the infestations, which is especially problematic during the rainy season. So this will be managed through a regularly scheduled fumigations. Additionally to that, residents will be educated on proper waste disposal practices, and that will further reduce the pest-related issues. So these measures are anticipated to cost between $1,500 to $2,500 dollars per year. Managing a business interruption effectively is important for Twins residents, particularly given the challenging environments in which it's operating. So, I've identified a few scenarios that could disrupt operations, and here are some targeted mitigation strategies. Starting with the fire outbreaks. This is a risk that requires immediate response. So the plan is to upgrade the current fire system to an advanced addressable fire panel equipped with a GSM alert. This means that any smoke or any heat detected will instantly notify the important staff through their phones. Uh, that would allow them for rapid intervention. Also, regular quarterly drills should be supervised by the fire brigade in Niamey, alongside with ongoing staff training on the use of ABC extinguishers, further enhance the readiness. So, additionally to that, it should maintain like a comprehensive property damage and business interruption insurance coverage to financially secure the facility against any potential losses. In the event of a health emergency such as pandemic, prevention should be first line of defense. So good hygiene is actually promoted with a clear signals and accessible hand sanitizer stations throughout the property. And it, sh- it should also establish a 24-hour health screening protocol, including temperature checks and at any entry points. And it should also partner with a local provider for rapid testing and telemedicine consultations. So to manage potential disruptions and reassure the guests, It should also implement a flexible booking and cancellation policies alongside pandemic specific business interruption insurance. Next, considering civil or political violence, Niger's political instability makes it vital to maintain a constant vigilance. So, to stay updated through the daily alerts from trusted sources such as the UNDSS or the embassies via a dedicated WhatsApp group, um, or via email messages that will enable them a quick dissemination of the critical information. So the security team remains on standby for immediate reinforcement if there is need. Additionally, it should also develop a clear and straightforward stay inside plan to ensure everyone's safety during any unrest. Finally, to prevent structural failures, so regular inspections and preventive maintenance routines should be conducted to identify and address any risk promptly. So, annually, a local civil engineer should carry a structural checkup while ensuring the building remains safe and sound. In addition to that, emergency reports funds should be maintained to immediately handle any unexpected repairs or to ensure minimal disruptions to operations and as well as residents. The slide highlights the technology related risk identified along with the targeted mitigated strategies. So, firstly, a data breach poses a critical risk due to the potential unauthorized access to GETS personal or payment information. So, in order to prevent this, the business should actually employ an AES 256 encryption. This is actually a sophisticated encryption method that scrambles data into an unreadable format, which can only be decoded using the correct key. So, in addition to that, the use of two-factor authentication, meaning that the staff must confirm their identity using two separate verification methods instead of all, or just the password. So a plus code should be sent to their phones at each login to ensure that the security system is safe and reliable. An annual phishing awareness should be run for staff training, equipping them with skills to recognize and respond appropriately to cyber threats. And then the total implication cost is approximately $12,000. The second is a technological risk related to the potential downtime in booking system, which can actually disrupt the guests and the guest satisfaction level. So to address this properly, the property management system, the PMS, uh, should be hosting a reliable cloud services guaranteeing a 99% uptime. In that case, it should maintain a daily backup stored locally on a spare laptop, ensuring a swift recovery if necessary. Furthermore, the backup switching process is tested twice annually, while ensuring that the system is reliable and then a seamless continuity of its operation. So the estimated cost for these measures is approximately 15 uh, thousand. Another risk is malware and ransomware attacks that infect servers, compromising data. So mitigation efforts include the installation of advanced firewalls, um, and the clear segmentation of the guest corporate and management networks, which can limit potential damage by isolating infections. Additionally to that, it should have like an advanced email filtering, let's say, with attaching a sender boxing to identify a block and then block the thread immediately before it even reaches out to the staff. For that, daily offline backups or secured modifications, as well as quarterly rehearsals of a detailed incident response plan will enable like a rapid recovery if an attack was to occur at an estimated cost of $9,000. Next, addressing risk is the Wi-Fi outages, the poor network coverage. So it's actually critical for the guest satisfaction. So instead of just relying on one single internet provider, uh, with an automated failover router, it should rely on at least like two internet providers. Um, that to ensure its continuous connectivity without any, even during blackouts. So additionally to that, regularly upgrade to access points in areas with weak signals, and then conduct like a weekly performance checks while guaranteeing a robust and reliable network coverage throughout the residence. Last concern is the customer data privacy. In order to ensure compliance with data and protection regulations, the company should actually appoint a dedicated data protection officer so to oversee an annual compliance audit with clear policies for data retention, constant and as well as the deletion and should be fully integrated at the check-in and the booking processes. So it also should host a biannual workshop to in order to train staff on the best practices when it comes to data privacy. By doing that, they will like ensure an ongoing compliance as well as to enhance the cost confidence with an overall cost estimated at $4,000. This slide summarizes the four main financial risks identified for twins. The market risk is actually rated high due to its fluctuations in demand and pricing. So mitigations include local demand or studies at affordable pricing and also targeting diaspora investors to broaden the buyer base. This can actually reduce the risk to a medium level. When it comes to the liquidity risk, it's also very high. So, stems from the potential cash flow shortages. In order to address this, the strategy includes partnering with microfinance institutions locally, faced with payment plans. So, and that will ensure to maintain your liquidity reserves. This may even like lower the risk to a low level. Fraud risk, especially internal theft, is also a important concern. In order to manage this effectively, the plan should be to implement a digital payment and escrow accounts, which are actually specialized in accounts held by like a neutral third party, where the funds are securely kept and only released when the specific conditions are met. So, additionally, regular internal audits and independent third party reviews should be conducted that will help to reduce the risk to a medium level. And then we have the credit default risk, currently to medium. That would like involve the tenant insolvency. So mitigation includes partial prepayments, uh, guarantors, or informal credit checks, as well as the payment incentives that aim to reduce the risk to low. These metrics provide a clear visualization of the main risk and opportunities faced by the twins residents. So those are arranged according to the relative levels of risk and opportunity. In the high risk, low opportunity scenario, we have identified external threats such as like economic downturns, currency devaluation, labor shortages, or even like ongoing political unrest, as well as increase in the market competition or even like a major data breach penalties, which can represent operational challenges, yet they even offer like a little or even almost inexistent opportunity to grow. On the top right side, there is the high risk, high opportunity. We see a bold strategic moves that carry potential expansions into markets, as well as new destinations. So, strategic diversification initiatives, or even like undertaking a large scale digital transformation. So, these actions carry substantial risk. They also represent like a great opportunity that could benefit the business if they're managed properly. The low risk, low opportunity quadrant includes routine operational inefficiencies as well as the minor regulatory compliances issues where their overall impact on the business performance remain very modest. Finally, on in the top bottom right quadrant, there is the low risk, high opportunity. Well, these are like some opportunities that offer meaningful impact with relatively low associated risk. Those include mm, the upskilling and reskilling employees, adopting sustainable practices, or upgrading the property management systems, or even like a forming strategic partnerships. So these are like a quick wins that can bring considerable benefits without even any major exposure. The risk register dashboards presented in this slide offers a layered view of the company's current risk landscape. This combines data visualization with key metrics and then support let's say like a strategic decision making. It integrates like a risk categorization, several risk level, and the progress tracking to have like a clear picture of the risk exposure. The risk type pie chart highlights the major categories identified so far. So, with a country risk leading at 41%, which reflects the challenge in operating in an unpredictable environment, where the political instability as well as the economic volatility are beyond the company's control. So, mitigating those risks require adaptive strategies like scenario planning, diversification, or even like a stakeholder engagement. Other key risk type include the financial, operational, and as well as the compliance and the leadership, with each with like a distinct implication for founding internal processes and the regulatory obligations. Next, the risk distribution chart presents two layers. The dark blue bars show the number of risk by severity, the low to critical, while the green bar indicates how many have been like the mitigation response. So medium level risk dominates, followed by the high risk and the critical risk. This actually suggests like a wide base of moderate impactful threats that could escalate if they're not addressed properly. So the visual gap between the categorization and the response, especially in medium and high categories, indicates that while the risks are well documented, mitigation efforts are still lagging. This is further supported by the progress indicators, with 87% of risk have been analyzed, so showing a strong risk identification and assessment practices. However, like only 43% of mitigation actions have been like implemented so far, or are even like being implemented. So this kind of reveals like a significant execution gap. So this also suggests that while the organization understands its risk, it may be facing delays in applying the mitigation. Finally, from like the risk register, I've identified so far 183 risk counts, among which eight are critical, and then seven 65 of them are like considered as high risk and need to be mitigated immediately. From those risk, we also have identified 87 medium risk that, if they're not addressed properly, could potentially be converted into like a high risk. To better understand the risk faced by the business, we use the gray rhino and the black swan framework. The nature refers to fundamental character of the risk, like whether it is sudden, unexpected, or even gradual. A black swan is unexpected or high impact event that is actually extremely difficult to predict. So it falls outside the realm of our regular expectations and often catches like organizations completely off guard. In contrast, the gray rhino is highly probable, like high impact threat that is visible and approaching. Unlike the black swan, it's not a surprise, but it's often like ignored or underestimated until it's too late. Now let's apply this to the twins residents. A black swan for us would be like a sudden terrorist attack, targeting like an expatriate or a diplomatic zone, including areas near the property. So this would be unpredictable events um, that will have like immediate and severe consequences, potentially forcing to halt operations overnight. The gray rhino, on the other hand, is already in motion. Like we're seeing a steady decline in occupancy due to the prolonged regional instability and the growing security concerns. This is like a slow moving crisis that's been developing over time, and its impact is already visible on the performance metrics. Next is the frequency, which refers to how often the risk is likely to occur. As black swan events are extremely rare, they don't happen often, but when they do, the consequences are very catastrophic. The gray rhino occurs more regularly. They're like a part of a pattern, like the gradual of withdrawal of NGOs, as well as like the reduce of travel advisories or tightening of international funding. And these are not just isolated incidents, they're like signs of a broader or a potential ongoing risk. Moving to the awareness, which is about how visible or anticipated the risk is. A black swan is actually to it's actually difficult to foresee. So even though we know that the region has security challenges, the exit timing and the nature of a major attack is unknowable. This makes it hard to prepare effectively. While the rhino is clearly visible, we see them like in occupancy reports, in guest feedback, and in like regional news. So managing them is like the management department is actually aware of the issue, but the action may be delayed due to limited resources. Finally, we consider the implication, which refers to the potential consequences if the risk materializes. Sorry. So a black swan could force a complete shutdown of twins residents. It could lead to the evacuation of reputational damage, or even like insurance or legal challenges. So the gray rhino, while it's like less dramatic, but it doesn't mean that it's less dangerous. So if we continue to actually ignore the declining occupancy and the broader instability, the business is risking to sustain its revenue loss and even eventually downsizing. So over time, this could erode the market position and even threaten the long-term vitality and the viability of the business. As we look ahead, it's important to consider how risk management at Twins Residence will evolve in the coming years. So, a timeline outlines how risk management at the business is expected to That will be shaped by the global trends and international priorities. So in 2025, 2026, the integration and growth, the risk management begins to shift from a specialized function to a core operational priority. So awareness increases across the organization, and then the risk consideration become embedded in everyday decision making. The year 2027, 2028 is like innovation and intelligence. So the adoption of the artificial intelligence would transform how the risks are identified or assessed, and also how they're addressed. So AI tools would enable like a faster and more accurate analysis that would allow like a real-time responses and predictive insights. For the year 2029, 2030, there is like the collaboration and compliance cross-sector. So partnership become more common, enabling shared risk and also like a resource pooling. At the same time, evolving the regulatory frameworks demand like a greater agility and compliance, pushing the risk management to become like more adaptive and more responsive. In 2031, we're expecting like a strategic integration. By this point, the risk management is fully integrated into the strategic core of Trans Residence. So it should also like a function not just like a as a like a protective measure, but rather as a driver of resilience and long-term sustainability. In conclusion, we've identified several key risks faced by twins residents, including like a frequent disruption caused by the political instability, most of them, and as well as the inadequate infrastructure and and vulnerabilities related to the technologies. So these issues are actually directly affecting operational continuity and overall satisfaction of the residents. So, in response to a series of solutions were and mitigations were offered during the presentation, um, that should be implemented in order to enhance like security protocols or also put in place alongside with a comprehensive risk management framework designed to mitigate both physical and financial risk effectively. So as a result, the residents' experience should actually improve its safety and as well as like a greater operational resilience. So this would definitely restore like a confidence among clients and help stabilize the occupancy rates and then reinforce the long-term sustainability of the business. This is the end of my presentation and thank you for your time.